Welcome to ThatChannel.com. Tonight we got a special interview with director and producer James Hergott, originally from Cobourg, Ontario, but he's spending a lot of time in LA, so we're going to talk a little bit about his career. And James, welcome to ThatChannel.com.
Thank you, Randy. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's start off. Let's start off with how it all began for you. And I find this rather motivating for most Canadian actors or directors and producers because you haven't had it easy. You've worked your way through it. And it's kind of ironic that some of your films are the subject matter is going to be with the MMA. So we can get into that a little bit later. But seriously, how did it all start for you?
Well, when I was in high school, I used to make home videos with the local kids, and you know, I'm really one of the first generation that we really had the portable home video cameras. So when I was 13, my mom got that for me, and I would actually use the VCR to edit because I didn't have an editing system or anything like that, and I would edit together my own little short movies and stuff like that. I always had a passion for it, and after graduating high school, I went to university, and I took film, and I had a goal of like, I really wanted to get out in the real world and do it. I didn't want to just, you know, think about doing it. You know, everybody was saying, you know, my family, everybody grew up, like you said, in Cobourg. You know, it's a small town. Everybody says, well, why don't you just do something reasonable, you know, become a teacher, become whatever. And so I had this dream, and I ended up meeting a producer named Tarquin Gotch, and he executive produced Home Alone and a lot of big films. So Tarquin mentored me. I don't know why, he's crazy, but I was like 20 years old, and he showed me how to write a script. I sent him some stuff, and he said, this is really good, and this is high praise from this guy, because this is the guy that worked with all the John Hughes movies. He worked on Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, and he worked on Ferris Bueller, and all these movies I had been a fan of. So for him to say, you're a really good screenwriter at such a young age, I knew that it was the right track for me to continue pursuing this.
So James, I got to ask you, when you said you were a really good screenwriter, it sounded like there was maybe a little but on the end of that. What was one of the first tips he gave you that stuck in your mind?
I would say the first thing he said is no scene in the movie shouldn't move the story forward.
Everything has to move the story forward.
Everything has to move the story forward. So, you know, because at first you would just kind of write like a book and you'd be all over the map. And I got to kind of cutting to the chase of, is this scene, does it lead into the next one? Does it propel the story and the characters and their journey forward? So just even the basic understanding of you that you have a character that is going to overcome obstacles, and at the end of it, he is going to come out changed as a result of that. And just the simple things like that, I mean, I could write the dialogue accurate, I had a good imagination, but it was forming actually what a screenplay should be that really helped me in the future.
Well, I think that Sid Field in his book, he said that you got to kill your babies. The scenes that you love. Have you read Sid Field? I don't know.
I haven't read that book, but there's a lot of books that have the same type of thing. Yeah, that say you should throw out your best scene. This that. I mean, you just and I just now automatically when I write, I lay out the track beforehand, and I just know, okay, this scene is constantly propelling, and it makes a big difference when you see it. And in the documentaries and stuff I've had to do, if I've written something to send to the editors, it's the same process. It's like, why is that in there? And if there is a block in there, when you watch it, it immediately it feels like you're taking this side road, and it doesn't feel right. So. All
right. Okay. So because I definitely want to talk to you about your documentary stuff, because I'm really I admire your work there. Let's start. I believe that All That I Need was before your documentary, correct?
Yes, after I met Tarquin, I moved down to California, and I raised $30,000 and did my first feature film. You know, it was called All I Need, and it was about a pyramid scheme. And you know, it was a full-length feature, but you know, nobody got paid on it. It was really low budget, and I had to work around the fact that I hadn't, you know, not really much previous experience. I had no money, and so to me, it's not Avatar, but what was really exciting about it was I was able to get that theatrically released in the U.S. and not.
That's huge.
And it was through Regal Entertainment, and it wasn't like art houses. I got it into multiplexes. So to do something for $30,000 and to walk in and actually be able to see it on the big screen, and that people are like, because I would go around the country where it was playing, and I would stand in line and try to talk people into going to see my movie instead of something else, you know? I even, don't tell...
So you
don't
stand there
tell,
with mustaches and everything, standing there going, yes, by the way, I hear that All That I Need is fantastic.
I even...
Come back with a cowboy hat on.
I won't tell Regal this, but I actually... I actually would say to people, well, if you really are intent of going to Lord of the Rings, pay for All That I Need and then go to Lord of the Rings. But I don't know, I got people to go see the movie. And it's funny because you would approach people, and I would be very humble and say, look, this is my movie. It's actually here playing. Would you go see it? And some people would be, that's the coolest thing ever, and be really receptive. And then you get people that say, go screw yourself and stuff. So you had to develop a thick skin. And you would get criticism. I mean, there was people that walked out of my movie and stuff like that. There was all kinds of things like that. But one of the key things that really transitioned me into MMA is my movie was about a pyramid scheme, and on the poster I had a Ferrari, just because the character like gets an expensive car when he's making money. And I remember everybody that I could see going into multiplexes was like in the 19 to like 25-year-old range, and they would say to me like, oh, is there like a fast driving Ferrari scene, or is there this and that? And I was like, okay. The people that are coming here, they want to see action, and they're young guys, and a lot of them are driven to genres or niche markets, and I had always been a big fan of MMA. So I thought, well, you know, what a better thing at that point in time that has not come really onto the big screen to get into to showcase that 19-year-olds would absolutely love. So
okay, so All That I Need was in multiplexes. It must have been a fantastic experience for you.
Yeah.
And then so you evolved after that into your MMA script writing, correct?
Right.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. The early days of your MMA script writing. So from what I understand, you've written a couple.
Yeah, I wrote a script called Never Submit, and this is before Never Back Down came out. This is before Red Belt came out. This is really early on. And actually, there was a movie called No Rules that superseded me, but other than that, there wasn't really anything to do with the MMA. And look, at the time, they're doing the Jackie Chan movies. That's the way the action pictures are going. This is like the mid-2000s, and so I wrote a script. It was really well received. It was purchased by a company at the time, and
for script writers out there, you mean optioned or purchased?
It was purchased.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
And so. And I was relatively new to the business, but I was going to be the director of that movie as well. And then, because that was, I had insisted on that as part of the deal. And we had gone around the country, and I had met all kinds of fighters. We were auditioning for that movie. So, and then what happened is that the financing on that they were dealing with fell through. So the movie didn't end up happening. But we had already signed Cam Jig and Dad, who ended up being in Never Back Down. Now, a little piece of trivia, Never Back Down at the time was called Get Some. And Cam was going to be the lead in our movie. He ended up going and doing Never Back Down, and I can't say that they changed the title from Get Some to Never Back Down, but I will say it was quite a coincidence that we had one of the same lead guys, and as soon as our project fell apart, Never Back Down instead of Never Submit came out. So
got it.
That movie kind of like took off and did its own thing. And then
okay. So that happened.
Yeah.
That could have crushed a lot of screenwriters and directors and producers. Like that could have broken your heart.
Yeah.
And how did you overcome that yourself in your own mind?
Well, you know, there was a legal thing as well that I had filed, and I can't talk about because it was settled. But
we can't talk about how you feel.
Yes, and I will tell you that, you know, it was absolutely crushing. I couldn't sleep at night because growing up in Coburg, I was a little bit naive, and you know, you kind of, if you do a screenplay, it's like your baby. So if you write a baby, and then somebody steals your baby, that's how I felt about it. You know, because there was stuff from my personal life that I had put into my script. So even having to face any challenges on that or anything, well,
it's written in your blood.
Yes, that's right. So it really got me down, and that was a point where I could have walked away from the industry and be like, this isn't worth it.
Hell with this. I'm out of here. I'm going back to Coburg. I'm getting a job.
And that's when
did it really cross your mind?
That it did, but the thing was that what got me out of Coburg, because I had a lot of people, even within Coburg, tell me you cannot do this. And there was even people that when I started working out, they were like, oh, you don't really have the body for it, you can't get in shape, this and that. So I've always heard negative criticism, and I've never really listened to it. So even though I had that, I was like, you know, I have to be determined and struggle on. And as a result of that, and I have faced a lot of other obstacles along the way, I realized that there's nothing that I cannot overcome. So that kind of adversity makes you stronger, makes you realize that no matter what happens, you will survive and you will make it through. And a lot of times there's blessings in disguise that something doesn't work out and even something greater comes out as a result of it.
Okay, so let me ask you. I was going to say this later for the personal side of the interview, but I'll bring it in now since you brought it up. Your bodybuilding. Yeah. You know, before we get to Owned, your new project, let's talk about your bodybuilding.
Yeah.
What was the spark that got you to say, finally, I'm going to do this? Because I believe you were posting your pictures online. Were you not your progress?
Yes, I was posting my progress. What happened was...
I remember that, because I was following that. I remember writing you comments. No, seriously. You might not notice it, but I remember writing you comments. Because I remember you were mapping out your progress. But anyway,
okay.
What was the spark that got you to say, heck with this, it's time to attack this challenge? Was this a vent for you?
I had been lifting weights since I was 16, and as I was kind of getting involved in the production or whatever, I was still working out all the time, but I had kind of gotten out of shape in the sense that my diet went off, all that stuff. When I came to Canada to work on some of the other movies we'll talk about, being around the fighters, I realized that the way that I trained was not the level of intensity that I could be training at. So even like following some of the fighter training that they do, I was just like felt like I had never worked out in my life. So I really increased my both my knowledge of training and again humbling myself to learn. I don't care if I've been doing this since I was 16. There's things that I can learn, and then I just decided, okay, I want to challenge myself. I'm 33, 34 at the time. I want to, for the first time, get in as good a condition as I'm able to do at this point in my life. And
has it helped your work?
Well, it's helped my work because, again, it's a determination thing. It's a goal setting and breaking those goals down into little goals and doing it. So this was a natural bodybuilding contest, so you couldn't use drugs, you were tested, and as a result of that, my diet had to be very strict. I ate the same 6 meals every day for like months. And that starts to mess with your head because you're very low carbohydrate, you're all these things. And I didn't even know this at the time, but when you start dropping your carbs below a certain level, your emotions start to get messed up. So I started to actually like cry like a baby over like the dumbest things, you know, like stuff that's on TV and everything. But, and then I talked to the trainer, and my trainer was like, this is like a typical thing. And so that was more of like a mental challenge. Okay, I realized that I realized at an intellectual level, this is why I'm feeling these things. So I'm just going to press through to get to the contest, and I can eat whatever I want. Yeah. And
How was that experience for you? How was the contest for you?
Well, you
Good
know,
time?
I
mean,
I won the contest. I achieved what my goal was. I got in the kind of shape that I wanted to go. So it just reinforced what I believed, that the same, whether it be entertainment or whether it be with this, if you have a goal and you have the determination, the hard work, and probably the biggest thing is people give up too soon. It's not that they don't have the ability, it's not that they don't have the wanting to do it, it's that as soon as they face the adversities and things that come along with it, that's when they pack it up. And I've noticed with people that are successful, or times I've been successful in my life, that's what makes it, is you have to just overcome anything. And that just reinforced that for me. And
okay, you know, that's awesome. That's really awesome. I gotta, before we talk about, go ahead. Before we talk about The Striking Truth and Owned, which is going to be your new film, I'd like to ask you, what then motivated you to do the documentary? I believe it was overseas. You did that with the war, with the soldiers, correct?
yeah.
Please tell everybody about that, because that's a great story.
I had just finished doing a TV show called Mma Worldwide. Again, I made a lot of connections with that project, traveled throughout the country. I did 10 episodes. I wrote, directed, produced that, and that aired on HDNet. And as a result of that, through those contacts, I got the opportunity to go to Iraq, into active war zone. We were in Mosul, Iraq, and I went with a fellow filmmaker, Rick Lee, and it was one of those things that you only live once, and I wanted to never, you know, have any regrets. So I wanted to take that challenge and experience that. So going to Iraq,
Dangerous in Canada is making a non-union film. I mean, going to Iraq, I mean, that's on another planet. Seriously, like, wow, that's like...
And we were in an active war zone. There was mortar fire going on. The guys that we were sleeping in the same camp with would go out and do tours with their machine guns and come back and sleep. So we were right there.
So what was the documentary about?
Basically, we went there and we brought and we followed the behind the scenes of putting on the first MMA fight in an active war zone. And we have had a huge turnout. This is kind of like how they would entertain the troops in other ways. But the thing is, like, if an actor comes out there to entertain the troops, or you know, they get to shake hands and stuff. But when you put on an MMA event, so many military people are MMA fans. And when you come right to their backyard and they're in full gear and they get to just finish a duty where they're out there shooting for real, and they get to go and have the fun of watching a live MMA event.
They must have went nuts.
They loved it. I was told by the colonel that this was like the best reception of any event that they've ever put on to entertain the troops. So it was just something that they were thanking us.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, these guys, like, and you get to see how hard it is for their life. Like, they just on a daily basis wearing all the gear and all the conditions and everything, and the hazards that they are in. And they are fighting, you know, for us. So for them to turn around and be, you know, like teary-eyed and like so thankful that we did that, I mean, that was really humbling, and it was kind of hard to take, actually, because...
Did it change your life?
Yeah, it changed my life. I realized I stopped feeling sorry for myself about a lot of things, because it changed my life in two ways. One, you couldn't drink the drinking water. You had to wear a bulletproof vest. You had guys who actually would go out and be shot at. And it put in perspective the little things that we complain about, you know. And the second thing it did for me is that in that situation, you have to work as a group. It's not all about you. You are relying on the people around you for your own safety, and you start to become concerned about them as well. And you start to, whereas in this world, it's like you know, you want to get ahead and you want to do this for yourself. You start caring about the people around you, because the people around you are your support system as well.
Okay, so let's talk about, let's bring it back to film now. How has that experience, well, I think I know how, because you just explained it, but it must have made you a better director, a better producer, because when you went on to your next film, which before we talk about Ownage, was The Striking Truth with David Loiseau and George St. Pierre. Is that correct?
Yeah.
How was that? What was that experience for you?
Well, that was a great experience because it was a documentary, and of course it was about George St. Pierre and David Loiseau and two stories. And first of all, they're really likable guys. And with the movie, we were able to show a softer side of the fighters. In other words, not that these guys aren't hard guys, but like that they're not just these monsters that go out there. They're intelligent, they're well thought out, and I've shown the movie to people that know nothing about MMA, and it has made them respect MMA in a new way and not think of it as a brutal blood sport. So. Yeah. It was a great experience to do that. It was a great experience to work with George and David, and it helped me again where I had to. One of the things that I did is I kind of had to guide the editing in terms of I had to write out, okay, this is what we keep in, this is where we put this, that type of thing. As a result of that, it just helped my storytelling because I had to work with a story that wasn't pre-scripted. It was something that was live, and I had to decide how we make it so that when the audience sees it, they actually see a narrative come to life. So, and you know, that got released here in Canada through Alliance. It's in Blockbuster and Walmart and all these places. So it was the first project. You know, obviously the HDNet was on TV, but it was the first project that I did that really got a push where you could go into Walmart and buy it, and it's got your name on the back and all that kind of stuff.
That's
so that was
cool.
So that was cool, yeah.
What's it like? What was it like to hang out with? You know, when you're hanging out with George St. Pierre, he almost epitomizes dedication. I mean, this guy's committed to what he does. And then you look at somebody who like David Loiseau, who's committed to his life as well, but there seems to be a difference there. What do you think that major difference between the two of those guys are? If I can ask you that.
Yeah, the movie really explains it well. I think that the big difference was that David had anxiety issues and he would doubt himself. And one of the key things to George's success is I think when you doubt yourself, it's hard to look inwards and to say, I need to make improvements here and there, because you are so focused on whatever that anxiety is that you can be amazing in terms of like when you go out there and fight, but then if you go out to perform in front of the live audience and for whatever reason, whatever those anxiety issues are, you freeze up. You feel like you can't breathe, which was happening to David. And I think George, he's able to rise to the occasion. And I think that I've seen that in the acting world as well. If I do an audition, it's pressure when people come in front of me and audition, and that goes one or two ways. Some people, they become better and they give it, and some people, it breaks them. They start stuttering, they can't do their lines and stuff like that.
Sure.
And David wasn't like that in all his fights. It just came sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's kind of helped me with being in the moment. To, like, if I'm doing this interview here, I'm not thinking about what I need to eat for dinner. I'm not thinking about this. I'm not thinking about that. I'm not thinking about, oh, I'm worried if I look good on TV right now. I'm worried about what you're asking me and giving a good interview that will be engaging for the audience. So I think staying in that moment is the same thing for being in a fight, and that's kind of really the lesson of that movie.
Cool. Okay, so let's talk about Own. Time to talk about Own.
Yes.
Own, from what I understand, 2012, you're going to film this?
Yeah, we're going to film it in the spring. We're going to film it in Cobourg.
So the town must be going ape.
Oh, yeah.
They must be
I was in here meeting with ACTRA today, and then I got a call from the town. They're like, oh, you know, there's a news station out here that wants to, like, they've driven out and they want to interview you. And I was like, well, I need, like, notice. Like, I can't, like, I'm not in Cobourg right now. And, you know, on Monday, meeting with the Member of Parliament for Northumberland, The city has welcomed the production with open arms.
Are they helping finance your film?
Can't really talk about that, but
they're going to make it.
Let's put it this way: the government and everybody involved is supporting what we're
cooperating.
doing.
Everybody's cooperating.
Everybody's cooperating and supporting.
Team, like what you said, you learned about in that.
And you know, also a lot of the people within that community have stepped up to the plate to want to meet with me because they're excited about it. So business owners and different people, whether it be to invest or whether it be to get behind it in terms of they've got a good location or whatever. So many people have contacted me and they're just excited about it. I mean, there's a lot of actually Hollywood people that are out there. The owners of Degrassi Junior High live out that way. There's a cinematographer that did a lot of 24 episodes. There's a lot of talent out there, and they've really embraced the fact that I have this plan and that I'm moving forward with it. So
is it one film or is it going to be a studio?
Well, it's two things. We're doing the studio, which is the long-term plan, and then the first film that will be part of that will be what we shoot in spring, which will be the OWN movie.
Okay, so what? First of all, what is OWN about, and have you cast your star yet?
OWN is a movie about two brothers, and involves MMA, but and it involves steroids. But I did not want to link steroids with MMA.
No,
so what I have is I have two brothers, and the younger brother is jealous of his older brother. His older brother is an MMA fighter who is very successful. His next fight is a title shot. And the younger brother lives in his shadow, so he can't really compete on the same way. So what he does to compete is he rebels. And he starts selling steroids. He gets involved in this whole underculture of doing it. And it's very raw in terms of how we show that. And inevitably, the younger brother gets in trouble, and the older brother, who is the MMA fighter, has to get him out of trouble. And he does that the way that he knows how, which is action. So,
and you're going to have to see it to find out how it ends. That's the bottom line.
It's very action-oriented, but it has a very deep plot, and there's a lot of really cool things. I mean, I actually interview all kinds of people that are behind the scenes within the steroid world that told me right now, as today, how things are getting around customs and things like that. And we show that in a very real way. Like, people that I've shown the script are just like, wow, I didn't know that this was possible, that you could, and it scares people a little bit because it's so right now. And
so are you concerned there's going to be some flack, or have you already crossed that? Like, is this something where have you had the script read by first of all, your mentor? Mm-hmm. And second of all, is there any involvement with the UFC at all to say, you guys cool with this? Are you even going to bother with that?
Well, no, we're not dealing with the UFC because unless the UFC owns a picture, except for they did one comedy that they're helping out, they really don't put their brand behind something. And to make it clear, I'm not showing that the fighters are using steroids. Again, the plot is that the brother is selling the steroids, and the older brother, that's the MMA fighter, is the one that has to come to his defense. So it doesn't show MMA in a negative way, which was very important to me. But as far as the subject matter being controversial, first of all, controversy sells. Second of all, there's an expression that anything that people say you shouldn't talk about is exactly what you should talk about. They were holding congressional meetings on steroids, you know, to an insane amount. And the reality is a lot of athletes really do use stuff. But what's funny about this is if I approach somebody and I said, this movie is about like cocaine, it's Scarface, and it's guys like just snorting boatloads of coke, and they are shooting people in the face and this and that. They say, cool, no problem. I say, there's steroids involved, and they're like, whoa. And why is that? You know, and as soon as there's a subject that's taboo like that, well, you know, Hollywood's not going to want to touch it. But that's when you can capture the 19-year-olds and the different people that look at this and be like, wow, this guy really showed what really goes on behind the scenes.
Well, isn't that kind of cool? But isn't that really reflective of where our industry's at right now? Is that because just Hollywood doesn't have a chokehold, the CBC and the CTV don't have a chokehold anymore on everything. It's that everybody can make a film now.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're free to make a film about subject matters that you want. People have to, like, there's an audience for it. And so I guess my whole thing is just to say to directors, I think it's encouraging. Your story's encouraging. Everything that you're doing is encouraging to anybody who wants to make film, is that they can get it done. And so let me ask you about, okay, so Owned is you're going to be filming that next year. What, I asked you if you have your lead cast. Do you have your leads cast? Can you talk about that?
Well, basically, we've got both MMA fighters and, more importantly, actors of note that are going to be in the movie, and some of those people have been signed and some of those people aren't signed yet, and we're negotiating with their agents. Once the major cast is all signed, then I will announce who they are.
Cool.
So there's people that you will recognize from both worlds that are part of it. But we're still casting roles, we're still negotiating, we're still doing things. But that's a very exciting thing, to have offers go out to people that I watched growing up or doing acting and going back and forth, and the possibility of them being in your film that you're going to direct is really thrilling.
Do you enjoy the auditioning process, the casting of the film?
Yeah, what I love about it the most is when you have somebody audition and they bring something to the character that is better than what you envision and put on the page. Sweet. And that's rare, but when they do that, that's like, wow, that character is even going to be better than what it is.
Sweet, sweet. Yeah. So, do we have a website for Owned?
Yeah, we have the Own Entertainment. The US one is up. That's ownentertainment.com, but it's outdated. But ownentertainment.ca, which will be the Canadian company and all the projects that we're doing, including the current Own film, is currently being built. I mean, there's like just a page up there with, here's how you contact me. But yeah, over the next couple of weeks, that will be filled in with more.
So if there's somebody out there who's really passionate and crazy, is it cool if they send you their stuff, whether you look at it or not? It's on the story.
Yeah, I mean, the hard thing from the acting point of view now is because we had to go ACTRA. Yeah. To get name stars.
Which is good. I mean, you get good actors.
That's right. In order to do that, we have to use, unless it's a very rare exception, we have to use ACTRA people.
Right.
So if somebody is ACTRA, they fall into that category, they can absolutely contact me and audition for parts.
And that's ownentertainment.ca.
.ca, and the contact there will have my email address.
Fantastic.
And you asked me about Tarquin. No, my mentor hasn't read the script.
No.
A lot of people have read the script. They're Hollywood agents, so they say this is the best script that they've ever read that has anything to do with MMA. So that makes me feel great. So I'm really excited about it.
This is good. This has been a live special interview with director and producer James Hergott from Cobourg, Ontario, Canada, and we all should be proud because he's the type of guy that gets films done here in Canada, and that's exactly what we need for everybody involved within the acting community. And so, James,
let's face it, the UFC is so big in Canada. I mean, it's no secret that pay-per-views per capita, Canada is the #1 place. So if Canada is so popular with MMA, we should be doing more MMA stuff. We should be doing more entertainment stuff up here to support the fighters and the actors up here.
All right, well, on a quick note, who's your favorite fighter? Who's your favorite?
Oh, right now it's Chael Sonnen, just because he's so controversial, and he's great at trolling people and getting people upset, and he knows exactly what he's doing.
When he said, what's his face was 3-2.
Yeah,
Fedor. He said Fedor was 3-2. I was teasing the boys. We were watching the fight that night. Okay, so that's your favorite. Who's the best fighter in the world, pound for pound?
I'm going to have to go with my boy George, just because I did the movie with him. It's between him and Anderson, but I'm going to say George St. Pierre right now. But the thing is that the scary thing is 10 years from now, the new crop will make George St. Pierre and these other guys look slow. I mean, it's just the evolution is so fast, it's scary, So
fantastic.
I'm sure he'll be on top for a long time, but there's young, hungry guys coming up that we probably haven't seen the best that is yet to come of MMA talent.
That's true, because nobody probably thought anybody would ever be better than Royce Gracie.
That's right. At that
And
very
now
time.
anyway, on that note, we got to go. Thank you. Thank you again, James. And
Thanks,
listen,
Randy.
we'd love to have you again soon. We want to stay in touch regarding the updates on your film.
Absolutely.
That's ownedentertainment.ca if you want more information. Thank you. It's ThatChannel.com. Special interview with director James Hergott. Thank you. Randy Thomas signing off for ThatChannel.com.